everyone, so as you can tell from the title, this is going to be a lot of book things crammed into one video. If you guys noticed, I've been gone for a little bit. First, like I said in another video, I was away in Iowa for a week visiting family, and I know I did say I would vlog, and I fully intended to, but a lot of my relatives don't even know what YouTube is, and I was staying with them, so it would have just been awkward. But then I got home, spent the night, and literally woke up the next morning and went to Atlantic City for a few days with some friends. I got back yesterday, and I will admit I am still recovering from that. So 2013 was not a big reading year for me, but I fully knew that that was going to be the case. I have a whole video on this, which I will link at the end of this video, but 2013 was a huge year for me because I studied abroad in Spain for 4 months. So for 1/3 of the year, essentially, I just did not read. Les and Bex of Get Bookish also studied abroad, and I remember one of them saying that because of that, they're making their reading goal just 30 books that year. So although I hate pressure and reading goals and everything like that, I did have that in the back of my mind, and I ended up reading 31 books this year, so maybe subconsciously I was following that goal. I'm completely fine with not having read a ton of books this year. I think the worst decision I could have made would have been to sit in my room alone in Spain just reading. And I have to say bravo to those of you who have read like 80 plus books. I've seen that in a lot of these 2013 wrap-up videos, and that is just fucking insane. I can't even fathom and wrap my mind around reading that many books in a year, but that is amazing. So first I'm going to get into my favorites, then my unfavorites of the year, and then I will get into my booktube and book resolutions for 2014. Since I only read 31 books, I probably should only be doing my top 5, but it was too difficult, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do my top 10. So because I have full video reviews on most of these books that are spoiler free, but also fairly in-depth and really say what I feel about them, you can click on the book or my face if I don't have the book, and that will take you to the video where I'm talking about it, but it will also leave this window up so you can keep watching this video. So these 10 books are in kind of increasingly favorite order, and number 10 is The Marriage Plot by Jeffrey Eugenides. Now I have read his previous 2 books, The Virgin Suicides and Middlesex, and they are 2 of my favorite books of all time. They're just essentially perfect in my mind. And while this book is my least favorite of his, this is about college students, and again, you can click on this window right here if you want to be linked to the video where I talk about this. But this book is a favorite of mine for kind of sentimental reasons. Mitchell, one of the male characters in this book, reminds me of someone who passed away who was close to me in 2013. And overall, even though it's my least favorite Jeffrey Eugenides book, it's still a Jeffrey Eugenides book, so the writing is still fantastic and I would still really recommend it. At number 9 is A Walk in the Woods by Bill Bryson. Bill Bryson is an extremely popular nonfiction author. This book was heavily recommended by Get Bookish. It's about a man trying to hike the Appalachian Trail, and it is so funny, and in 2014 I definitely want to check out more Bill Bryson. At number 8 is a book that I have back in my dorm room, that is Wanderlust by Elizabeth Eves. It's another nonfiction book about a woman and her travels. The writing is lovely and very thought-provoking, and the book's also quite sexy, so if you want to check out a nonfiction travel book, I would really recommend that one. At number 7 is Dare Me by Megan Abbott. This is a very dark young adult book about cheerleaders doing some very nasty, evil things. I don't think this book would be for everybody, and I explained that in my review, but I personally really loved it. It reminded me a lot of that 1980s movie's Heather, which I just rewatched actually. Highly recommend that one. Just a fun, kind of nasty little book. At number 6 is Into the Darkest Corner by... I'm blanking on what the author's name is because I don't own the book. I checked it out as a library book. The book was recommended by Pip at Pippity Bop, and a really wonderful psychological thriller. If you're wanting to get into some, I would really recommend that one. Sorry I don't have most of these books to show you guys, but they're either audiobooks or from the library or they're back in my college dorm room. At number 5 is The Coldest Girl in Cold Town by Holly Black. One of the best vampire books I've read in a really long time, and this book definitely made me fall back in love with Holly Black, and I'm really glad I got White Cat for Christmas. That's another one of her books. I'm really excited to read that in 2014. At number 4 is The Poison Tree by Erin Kelly. Now, this book I don't have a video review of, so I'll talk a little bit about it now. This vacillates back and forth between the 1990s when a girl has just graduated from college. Her name is Karen, she's from a middle-class family and kind of spent her college years just studying and doing quite boring things, acting kind of a bit like a middle-aged woman with her friends. But when she graduates, she ends up getting sucked into this world with this kind of manic pixie dream girl, one of those types named Biba. and she eventually begins to live with her and her brother in their kind of crumbling mansion. Now, a lot of people have problems with this book because on the one hand, it's a bit of a psychological thriller, on the other, it's a bit of a slow character study, and on the other, it's a mystery. And it is the type of book where it goes back and forth in time. You know that a murder took place involving those three people, but you don't know what happens until the very end of the book. So if you don't like that type of literary device, I don't think this book would be for you. And there were some aspects of this book I didn't really like, but I loved the atmosphere so much. And those last few pages, if you have read this book, you'll probably know what I'm talking about. Maybe I'm a bit evil for liking the last few pages of this book so much, but it was just so satisfying. I would recommend this, but I also, again, don't think it would be for everyone. At number 2, maybe this should have been number 3, I'm not exactly sure, is a book that was actually a reread that I've never talked about on my channel before, I don't think so. And that is Stolen by, once again, I forget the author's name and I don't have the book. This is a book about a girl who is, I believe, 16, who is kidnapped by a man who's about 25, and she's taken into the Australian wilderness and forced to live with him. Like I've said with some of the other books, this book wouldn't be for everybody. I think a lot of people would think the male lead Ty reminds them a bit too much of Edward Cullen. I've seen that in reviews and I can definitely understand that, but I don't even think you can compare the writing of this book to Stephenie Meyer. I think the writing was just leagues better. This book really just gets into your head, and I think you would definitely either love it or hate it. I, like a lot of other people, really want the author to come out with a Stolen 2. It definitely leaves, not with a cliffhanger ending, but definitely one where you just want to know more about what happens with the characters. It definitely has this obsessive quality of the book. Read a little bit of what it's about and see if it would be the type of book you think you would enjoy, but it's one of those guilty pleasure books for me that I know just I personally and a lot of other people really enjoyed. That was actually number 3. Number 2 is The Cuckoo's Calling by J.K. Rowling. Once again, I have a video talking about this book so you can hear more about why I liked it and what's it about. Somebody did point out, considering this is a crime novel and a mystery, there isn't a whole lot of suspense, which actually I 100% agree with. I think the writing was just so wonderful and I loved the characters so much and I loved the mystery aspect of the book and was definitely surprised. So overall, I love the book, but yes, I agree. I hope the next one in the series does have more suspense. And number 1, this is probably no surprise whatsoever, but that is Deathless by Catherynne M. Valente. Now, I am definitely going to be rereading this in 2014 because although I love the book so much, it was actually quite confusing, and if I had to describe exactly what happens throughout each part of the book, it would be quite difficult, so I definitely think this needs to have a second read. Also, as I mentioned, Liz Books Buffet did win this in my giveaway. I went through the comments a second time to personally message her, and I cannot find her comment anywhere. Now, I know she has, I believe, a booktube channel, but when I search Liz Books Buffet, I can't find it. So I'm not really sure what's going on, but if any of you know what her channel is, please let me know. If I or nobody else can find it, then I will go ahead and message somebody else and pick a different winner. But easily my number 1 book of 2013, and I have not heard from a single person who has read this, at least on BookTube, who hasn't enjoyed it, or any of the other books by her. I think just everybody gets blown away by her writing. My battery is dying, so really quickly I'll just mention my 2 least favorite books. But number 1, that was just awful, 1 star, was Abandoned by Meg Cabot. I thought I'd go back to some Meg Cabot, just try a different series by her, just to kind of go back to my preteen teen roots, but hated it. It was awful. And number 2 is Insurgent by Veronica Roth. Now, this wasn't a terrible book, but it definitely was a letdown for me personally after reading Divergent. And I didn't end up reading Allegiant because I did dislike Insurgent so much. I did just read the Wikipedia summary, so sorry guys if you're looking forward to a review about that. Now on to my booktube and book resolutions of 2014. So my number 1 resolution is to simply read more classics. I mentioned this on Twitter, and a lot of you guys give me great recommendations, so if you're watching this video and you want to recommend some classics for me that you think I personally would enjoy, then please let me know down below. Number 2 is to simply read House of Leaves. I'm definitely intimidated by the size of that book, and not so much by the size, but I'm just worried that I'm gonna get, say, 300 pages into it and decide I'm not feeling it, but then so many of you want to see a review of it. I'm just worried about getting through it if I don't actually enjoy it that much. So that's definitely number 2 on my list. And number 3 is more of a booktube goal, and I hope you guys are excited about this because I know in booktube people love these videos, but that is I want to start doing monthly wrap-ups and TBRs. This is something that I've only done maybe once or twice since I've started this channel. A lot of booktubers are able to read like 8 books in a month, which is insane to me, and so it definitely makes sense for them to do wrap-ups and TBRs. Now, whereas I tend to read 3 or 4 books. I thought I would just start doing more wrap-ups instead of just single reviews about books that I read. So hopefully you guys are excited about that. It might be kind of difficult because I live in an apartment with my friends and I can't film when people are in earshot. I don't know if anybody else is like that, so it has to be when they're not in the apartment, but I am going to try and implement that on my channel. So I'm not going to set a reading goal in terms of number of books because, like I said, I just don't like putting pressure on myself in terms of the amount of books to read. For other people that's good pressure, but for me it's just always negative. Also, I noticed a lot of people tend to do buy less books, and I don't buy a lot of books, which you guys have probably noticed. And that's not to say I don't like to shop and own books, because I definitely do. So if you would actually like to see a video on how I've been to kind of make myself not buy as many for the past few years, then definitely let me know. I think it's about changing your mindset about buying books. So I hope you guys had a wonderful 2013, a wonderful New Year's, and good luck to all of us for all of our booktube and book resolutions for 2014. Hopefully we can do it, and I will see you guys soon. Bye.